As the holiday season approaches, the world transforms into a festive wonderland with twinkling lights and vibrant Christmas trees. But some people took things to a whole new level. In today's video, we're taking a look at the top 15 biggest Christmas trees in the world. Starting with number 15, the Lisbon Christmas tree. Ever since 2004, the Portuguese capital of Lisbon has displayed a 76-meter-tall artificial tree. Considered to be Europe's tallest Christmas tree, it is a spectacular sight, and because it's hollow, you can walk inside and look at the lights from inside the tree. And while it temporarily left Lisbon in 2007 for a one-year stint in the city of Porto, it has since returned home. Number 14, the largest human Christmas tree. On December 19th of 2015, the Indian village of Sheganur put itself on the map by creating the world's largest human Christmas tree. Organized by both Mission Sheganur and Sobana George, the organizers recruited local school children for this feat and ended up creating a beautiful multicolored display consisting of a whopping 4,030 people. Number 13. Dortmunds Christmas Tree. Of all the trees on this list, the one in the German city of Dortmund's Christmas market may have the most unconventional design. You see, rather than being just one tree, it consists of over 1,700 red spruce trees stacked on top of one another to create a 46-meter-tall tower. This is possible because all those trees are placed in multi-storied layers within a giant metal frame, and the resulting tree is adorned with more than 50,000 lights and ornaments, and it weighs a whopping 40 tons. Plus, it's topped with a massive 4-meter-tall angel. Number 12. The Tumbleweed Tree. Arizona is a state known for being home to much of the vast Sonoran Desert, and so it makes sense that its desert surroundings extend to its Christmas celebration. Every year since 1957, the Arizona city of Chandler has created a massive Christmas tree out of desert tumbleweeds. This tradition first begins in September, when city workers collect about 2,000 dried tumbleweeds from the surrounding area. Once collected, they're stacked in the shape of a tree with the help of a chicken wire frame, sprayed with white paint and flame retardant, and then covered with over 30 kilograms of glitter and strings of Christmas lights in order to give it that festive feel. Number 11. Today's tallest tree. When you think of Louisiana, New Orleans, hurricanes, and gumbo are probably what come to mind. However, it turns out that this year, Louisiana is also home to the world's tallest Christmas tree. Located in northwest Louisiana DeSoto's Parish, it's technically not a tree at all, but a tree structure, doing it to being a cell tower covered with more than 10,000 LED lights. The whole thing came in at a cost of $30,000, and at 91 meters in height, it may just be the tallest artificial tree on the planet. However, to date, it has not yet received confirmation of this feat by the Guinness Book of World Records. Number 10. The Christ Tree. While Oklahoma is one of the lesser-known American states, one thing it does stand out for is its super tall Christmas tree. The story goes back that in 2021, local businessman Kyle Williams decided to bring a massive Christmas tree to his hometown. After going out to California, he scouted out a beautiful 43-meter-tall fir tree just outside the state's Shasta Trinity National Forest and decided to transport it 3,200 kilometers from California to Oklahoma. When interviewed, Mr. Williams said that the transportation piece was tricky. Getting the tree here was probably one of the most difficult tasks, so I confess I was nervous, he said. The thing could sag, it could break, it went through a snowstorm, it went through a thunderstorm, but finally it arrived here on time. I just believe that the Lord had a hand in bringing that tree here safely. Well, whether or not that's true is up for debate, but what is certainly true is that the tree got to Oklahoma in one piece. It's heralded as the world's tallest Christmas tree and nicknamed the Christ Tree. It was decorated with 20,000 multicolored LED lights, 10,000 ornaments, and ringed by a forest of 12 smaller trees. It was also the centerpiece of The One, which is the city of Enid's Keystone 42-day Christmas event featuring concerts, players, and activities. While the tree unfortunately must be replaced each year, the city continues to put a very large specimen on display, and by all accounts, it is successful in bringing the Christmas spirit to Oklahoma and attracting thousands of visitors to the city of Enid. Number 9. Ferndales Christmas Tree. Unless you hail from the northwest of the United States, chances are that you haven't really heard of Ferndale. While home to just 1,500 people, it has a very long history, and it's been settled since the 1850s. Plus, it's filled with lots of well-preserved yet very old-timey Victorian shops. Despite the winds of time, these shops have been very well preserved, and today Ferndale is a popular tourist site for those looking to explore California's redwood forests. If you happen to be in the area around Christmas time, Ferndale is also famous for its Christmas tree. You see, it's home to a 64-meter-tall Sitka spruce, and ever since 1934, the Ferndale volunteer firemen have decked lights around it to make it a Christmas tree. Lit on the first Saturday of each December, the firemen decorate the spruce with about 1,000 Christmas lights, creating a simple yet elegant tree that perfectly matches its surroundings. When the tree is lit, the entire town alongside tourists come out to watch, and afterwards the ceremony is always followed by a free hot chocolate and homemade cookies, making it a truly warm and festive event. As you might imagine, though, the townspeople are very proud of this tradition, and for years they've claimed that Ferndale is home to the tallest living Christmas tree in the world. For a time, they were wrong. After all, for years, 4 out of 5 Christmas trees in an Idaho resort known as Coeur d'Alene staked a claim as being taller than Ferndale's living tree. However, because those trees have since died, according to local reports, Ferndale's tree is now apparently deserving of the title. Yet to date, the Guinness Book of World Records has not yet passed judgment on the situation, and as a result, Ferndale only holds a record on an unofficial basis. Number 8. The Trafalga Square Christmas Tree. Few Christmas trees have a tradition that compares to that in London's Trafalgar Square. You see, during World War II, Britain came to the aid of the Norwegians by housing Norwegian King Haakon VII in exile. As a sign of his appreciation, a Norwegian resistance fighter named Mons Oransvåg cut down a Norwegian spruce during a raid on Hisøy, which is an island off the west coast of Norway. The tree was then transported to England and given to the Norwegian king, who had then put up in the middle of Trafalgar Square as a sign of gratitude to the British people. While there was a bit of a lull in the midst of the war years, ever since 1947, this tradition has continued annually. Typically, the Trafalgar Square Christmas tree is a 50 to 60-year-old Norway spruce that's over 20 meters tall. It's always sourced from Norway and cut in November during a ceremony that is traditionally attended by the British ambassador to Norway, Mayor of Oslo, and Lord Mayor of Westminster. After the tree is cut, it's shipped to the UK by boat across the North Sea. Once in Trafalgar Square, the tree is decorated in a traditional Norwegian style and adorned with 500 white lights, in the spirit of being environmentally friendly, that are low-wattage halogen bulbs. The base of the tree also has a plaque which reads, "This tree is given by the city of Oslo as a token of Norwegian gratitude to the people of London for their assistance during the years 1940 to 45. Once all is ready, then there's a tree lighting ceremony in Trafalgar Square that's attended by thousands of people and is led by the Lord Mayor of Westminster. Throughout the Christmas season, the tree becomes a focal point for choir groups who often come to the tree to sing and provide comfort to passers-by. Once the tree's finished being displayed at the end of the Christmas season, it's taken down, chipped and composted in order to make mulch, allowing it to continue to give back to the community in an indirect way. So, if you're ever in London during the Christmas season, Trafalgar Square should not be missed. Moving on to number 7, the Indianapolis Tree. While not technically a tree, every year the city of Indianapolis, Indiana gets to the Christmas spirit by erecting a massive Christmas light structure that looks a lot like a tree. Back in 1902, the city erected the Soldiers and Sailors Monument as a nod to the armed forces, and once World War II was over, the city began toying with the idea of turning the monument into a symbol of peace and goodwill around Christmas time. In the past, the monument was simply a large, dark, unlit monolith, and so in the early 1950s, the decision was made to shine multicolored floodlights and spotlights at it, while banners reading "Peace on Earth" were placed along the base. Then, in 1962, the city went a few steps further by stringing 6,000 lights from the top of the monument to its base, with the monument itself serving as the trunk of what local newspapers referred to as the world's tallest Christmas tree. During this initial event, a total of 10,000 citizens gathered, and after the mayor announced "Let there be light," the entire thing lit up in one spectacular moment. While Guinness World Records disputes this claim, after all, they've never certified the tree as being an actual tree, the 87-meter-tall structure nonetheless provides Christmas cheer to the people of Indianapolis. If that wasn't sweet enough, the creation of the tree is also a community-centric event. After all, every single year, the Union of Electricians, Local 481, volunteer their time to install and remove the decor. The Christmas tree also continues to honor various branches of the military. According to the city, each bulb represents a distinct branch: green for the Army, clear for the Air Force, blue for the Navy, and yellow for the Coast Guard, and red for the Marines. It's also worth mentioning that the lighting of the tree is now a much larger event than it was in the past. Today, the celebration is far from modest and includes fireworks and entertainment. This attracts a lot of people, and rather than simply have 10,000 spectators, more modern tree lightings attract approximately 100,000 people, while another 50,000 watch the televised event. And while the city stopped calling it the world's largest Christmas tree in 1999 after a series of complaints, it still holds the #1 spot in many people's hearts. Number 6. The Herbrand Tower. For most of the year, the Herbrand Tower serves a very utilitarian role. Named after Pieter Herbrand, who was the Prime Minister of the Netherlands during World War II, the tower was built back in 1961 and is used to transmit radio signals. At 367 meters in height, it's considered by many to be Western Europe's tallest tower, and there's no doubt that it's useful in its everyday role. However, around Christmas time, this seemingly mundane tower turns into something very special. That's because every year workers turn this tower into the world's tallest Christmas tree. Visible from over 50 kilometers away, the Christmas tree tower is made by stringing white lamps along the cables that support the tower. While this is a rather expensive procedure, after all, it was originally thought that this would only be financially feasible every 5 years, ongoing sponsorship money has allowed the Christmas tradition to continue. It is worth mentioning that the reason why the Christmas tree conversion works so well is because the tower has a very rare design. It's known as a partially guyed tower. The idea behind it is that while the bottom portion is a freestanding tower made of concrete or steel, the top part is extremely tall and thin and kept secure with the help of cables, which are also known as guy lines. While such towers are very useful at transmitting radio signals, they do have some drawbacks. After all, they require much more ground space than normal towers thanks to their cable, making them a bit of an inefficient use of space. So as a result, they're exceptionally rare. After all, only a few dozen exist in the world, with most of them located in, of all places, Hungary and Norway. It's also worth noting that for a short time, it also looked like the Herbrand Tower's Christmas tradition was in serious jeopardy. You see, on July 15th of 2011, there was a small fire in the tower. While this caused all the transmitters in the tower to be shut down as a precaution, it thankfully remained stable. This was very important because just a few hours later, a similar tower in the city of Schmelde in the north of the Netherlands caught fire. In this fire, the tower collapsed to the ground, leaving many Dutch citizens without radio access. So, the fact that the Herbrand Tower stood in spite of the fire was quite a relief. Number 5. The Strasburg Christmas Tree. The village of Strasburg has always had a bit of a rocky past. After all, it's located in the region of Alsace on the French and German border, and from late 1800s to mid-1900s, it was continuously changing hands between France and Germany. However, now that Alsace has definitively become French territory, Strasbourg can finally be free of continuous invasions and changes, and in a way, their massive annual Christmas tree can be seen as a symbol of this peaceful state of affairs. Now, every year at the end of November, Strasbourg holds a Christmas market. This market is held for a whopping 38 days, and it's so well known that it attracts a grand total of 2 million visitors, making it Strasbourg's most important tourist event by a large margin. At the center of this market sits the Strasbourg Christmas Tree. Better known as the Great Christmas Tree, this Alsatian fir tree takes over Place Kléber in the center of the historic city and generally measures in at about 30 meters. This year has been no exception, as the 2023 tree is 28.7 meters tall, is 70 years old, and was cut on October 18th. In order to prepare the tree for the festivities, a lot of work must be done. First and foremost, a total of 120 man-hours are poured into simply cutting down the tree and preparing it for its trip to Strasbourg. It requires so much time and patience because it must be placed onto a trailer with a crane and have its branches folded and tied to the trunk so as not to damage it on its journey. Then 180 branches from other trees will be hand-picked to attach to the chosen tree in order to make it appear larger and stand out more prominently. Once it's ready for decoration, it then takes a further 250 man-hours to adorn it with 7 kilometers of twinkling fairy lights, 300 flashing lights, and around 40 vast baubles featuring golden stars, 180 illuminated angels, 240 illuminated cherubs, 200 twinkling bouquets, and 400 golden red baubles. So the whole process is nothing if not intensive. Unsurprisingly, the tree's size and festive decor is so grand that the tree is one of the tallest decorated natural Christmas trees in all of the European continent, and its lighting ceremony is a definite must-see on any visit to Strasbourg during the holiday season. Number 4. The tallest artificial tree. While most of Asia is not Catholic, Sri Lanka is one of the few Asian nations to have a sizable Catholic community. It is within this community that the world's tallest ever artificial Christmas tree was born. The story goes that in 2016, Arjuna Ranatunga Social Services, which is an effort led by legendary Sri Lankan cricket captain and Minister for Ports and Shipping Arjuna Ranatunga, decided that it would be a good idea to set up a massive Christmas tree. Construction began in August, but despite commemorating a Catholic holiday, it soon received pushback from the Sri Lankan branch of the Catholic Church. In the first week of December, church authorities criticized it as being a waste of money, stating that, quote, construction work should be abandoned. Christmas is an occasion for sharing funds with the needy, not to waste money on lavishness. The market economy is using religion as a tool for selling Christmas, end quote. These criticisms effectively halted the project for a time. However, given the fact that it was nearly completed and built with what seemed to be good intentions, the Archbishop of the Sri Lankan capital of Colombo ultimately allowed work to recommence. However, this delay came at a price. While the original plan was for the tree to be 100 meters tall, delays in the construction meant that it only ended up being 72 meters tall. Despite this setback, it still made the tree about 16 meters taller than the previous record holder, and the end result was admittedly pretty incredible. The cone-shaped tree was created using a steel and wire frame made from scrap metal and wood, covered in plastic netting. It's decorated with approximately 1 million natural pine cones and painted in the traditional Christmas colors of gold, green, red, and silver. It's got 600,000 LED bulbs which illuminate the tree at night, and on top of it all sits a 6-meter-tall star with bulbs. And while this modern rendition of a tree is pretty cool to look at, its cost of about $80,000 certainly made it expensive. It's also worth noting that Sri Lanka, religious freedoms for Catholics, who are a minority group, have been reportedly decreasing in the past few years. As a result, many people believe that the money should have been spent on efforts to stem these injustices rather than on a large Christmas tree. However, others point out that the $80,000 would not been able to do much, and that the Christmas tree is a nice addition to the area. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments down below for me. Number 3. The Rockefeller Christmas Tree. Of all the trees on this list, none are really quite as famous as the New York's one and only Rockefeller Christmas tree. The history of the tree dates all the way back to 1931. In that year, Italian-American workers who were building the Rockefeller Center decided to place a 6.1-meter-tall balsam fir in the center of the construction site and decorate it with strings of cranberries, garland of paper, and tin cans on Christmas Eve. While this was all these workers could do given their poverty, 2 years later, Mr. Rockefeller opened his corporate pockets up to put up a much larger 15-meter-tall tree in the building's plaza, and in 1936 even decided to put a skating rink below it. Since then, the Rockefeller Christmas tree has been a yearly tradition, and it's gone through several phases of development. While it would continue to be decorated by the families of workers in the early years, in World War II the tree hit hard times. While simple patriotic decorations, including red, white, and blue unlit globes and painted wooden stars were used in the early years of the war, from 1944 until the war's end in 1945, the tree went unlit due to blackout regulations. However, it came out of this time period with a spark, as in the post-war period it was lit by 6 ultraviolet light projectors in order to make the tree's 700 fluorescent globes glow in the dark. By the 1950s, workers began using scaffolding to decorate the tree due to increases in size, and in 1951, NBC televised the tree lighting for the first time. As time went on, artists were able to add more creative elements to the tree and the surrounding areas, and in 1997 the tree finally made it on the air during NBC's primetime hours. Nowadays, it's an important part of New York's Christmas celebrations, and every single day during the holidays, it's estimated that more than 500,000 people pass by it. It's also worth mentioning that the tree selection process is pretty unique. Tree scouting is a large and drawn-out process, and generally speaking, a tree selected will be a 21 to 30-meter tall Norway fir, hailing from New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, or in rare occurrences, Canada. The tree selected on a set of criteria that include its hardiness, ability to support heavy ornaments, and perhaps most importantly of all, its Christmas tree shape. Once selected, the tree in question is cut, brought down by cranes, and moved into the custom trailer that can move through the streets of New York. Once at Rockefeller Center, the tree is supported by several wires and steel spikes, decorated with ornaments, LED lights, and a Swarovski crystal Christmas star. After being lighted in an official ceremony, it's displayed for the world to see until the middle of January. Number 2. The Guabo Christmas Tree. If you make your way over to the small medieval town of Gubbio in central Italy's region of Umbria, then you can see a Christmas tree that's like no other. That's because rather than be a Christmas tree in a traditional sense, it's instead a Christmas tree-shaped light show that stretches across the entirety of Mount Igino. The tradition began back in 1981, and every year since, the unique tree is lit up on December 7th and stays lit until the first week of January. At 650 meters in height and 350 meters in width, it's absolutely massive. For reference, this is about the size of 5 football fields put back to back. The tree's trunk starts at the foot of the mountain behind the walls of the old town and reaches up to the Basilica of the patron Sant'Ubaldo at the peak, where it's topped off with a bright shooting star made of 200 white lights. When you look at the tree as a whole, it's got a grand total of about 3,000 multicolored lights connected together with about 8.5 kilometers of electrical cable. This makes it so bright it can be seen in towns 50 kilometers away. And in 1991, its size and fame gave it the Guinness World Record for being the biggest Christmas tree in the world. And if not taken literally, this is certainly the case. It's also worth mentioning that putting it up is a colossal task. It's been estimated that it takes a total of 1,300 man-hours of work to put up all the lights, and another 900 man-hours to remove, maintain, and put back into stock what was previously installed. This grand effort has not gone unnoticed by the Italian public, and the tree's gotten so popular it's even attracted the attention of the Roman Catholic Church. Both Pope Benedict XVI and Pope Francis have had the honors of switching on the tree remotely from a tablet in the Vatican. In 2014, Pope Francis sent a video message telling the crowd of onlookers gathered in the mountainside that a Christmas without lights is not Christmas. Well, yeah, he's correct, both literally and figuratively. If that wasn't cool enough, the committee has also recruited some very high-profile names to light the tree that are not affiliated with the church. For example, in 2012, it was lit by Italian President Giorgio Napolitano. In 2017, it was lit by astronaut Paolo Nespoli from the International Space Station. And in 2018, by Gaetano Farina, who is the commander of the Fece Tricolori, which is an aerobatic demonstration team of the Italian Air Force. A final interesting note about this Christmas tree is that it's pretty dynamic. That is to say that its tradition has changed with the times in order to give it a greener thumb. Ever since 2020, the committees in charge of creating the tree has carried out a project to reduce the tree's energy consumption. While the 2020 changes entailed changing the types of lights on the Comet to LED strips, in 2022 LED lights were used on the entire perimeter of the tree, and in 2023 the light fixtures were changed from halogen technology to LED strip technology and powered by photovoltaic panels. So, the Gubbio Christmas tree is green in more ways than one. Number 1. The tallest tree. While most of the trees on this list can trace their birthdays back to the last 20-odd years, the record for the tallest natural Christmas tree is a whopping 73 years old. That's because it's held by a 65-meter-tall Douglas fir located at Seattle's Northgate Shopping Center. The date was November 24, 1950, and Northgate had recently opened and was on the verge of celebrating its first Christmas. In order to celebrate the season, Northgate wanted to do something big, and just 1 year before, the nearby city of Bellingham proudly displayed what it claimed was the world's tallest Christmas tree. Thus, in order to one-up their interstate rivals, it was only natural that the shopping center, which was one of the first malls in American history, put up their own largest Christmas tree. Now, the idea was that such a move would put Northgate on the map, and the hope was that they could find a tree so large that no other company would be able to challenge their record. A certain Charles Beach was hired as the lead contractor, and after allegedly inspecting 1,000 trees, he settled on a 65-meter Douglas fir located close to the nearby city of Enumclaw. The tree was estimated to weigh in at about 23,000 kilograms and was estimated to be at least 286 years old. Felling the tree took most of the day, and after being carefully cut, it was lowered to the ground with cables and guided by a 21-ton tractor onto log skids. These skids then loaded it onto a truck that began the journey to Northgate. The journey was rather long, stretching for 112 kilometers and requiring a police escort. It had to pass through sharp turns and large hills to get through this tricky terrain. This made things so shaky that a crane had to follow behind the truck and readjust the tree periodically in order to prevent it from dragging on the ground. Since the tree was so large, its tip was high in the sky, and at times it had a few close calls with local power lines. However, despite the danger, the tree reached Seattle largely without incident about 3 days later. Yet right before it was to enter the mall, a problem arose. You see, in order to get it into the mall area, it had to pass by a tight turn, and this turn was so tight that it threatened to hit nearby houses and utility poles. This forced the mall to use a crane to guide the tree as the truck moved, and despite nearly flipping over, the tree miraculously made it to the mall intact after what was nearly a 4-hour struggle in the pouring rain. The next big task was preparing the tree. In order to make the transport easier, it had been shorn of all its branches, save for a small tuft at the top. This meant that all the branches had to be wired back onto the tree once it arrived at its destination. In can what only be described as a gargantuan effort, the tree's branches, in addition to those 6 or so other trees that were strapped on, the end result was an evergreen with nearly 2,000 limbs and 3,600 multicolored lights. Crazily enough, the tree was so large it had to be secured with 1,100 meters of cable, and in order to prevent airplanes from colliding with it, 2 flashing red blinkers had to be installed on top. Once all was said and done, the total cost came out to about $27,000, or about $345,000 in today's dollars. Yet given the fact that it attracted widespread media attention and received a coveted spot in Life magazine, which was America's most important magazine at the time, it's easy to make a case that the expense was worth it. In any case, the tree remained lit each night through New Year's Day, and while there were talks to try to save it for next year, this ultimately proved impractical. So, it is fair to say that the year 1950 is the one that stands out in the hearts and minds of many of Seattle's older residents. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you to our channel members.